So what happens when a group of teenagers decide to graduate by finding out that you can take Camp Crystal Lake into the Atlantic Ocean and visit New York City? Well, we're about to find out when Horror Movie discusses Jason Takes Manhattan. Seems really long. Apologies.
Yeah, 43 minutes. Actually, I think
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Horror Movie Night Live podcast here at the Brickwall Tavern in Burlington, New Jersey. We got 2/3 of the show here right now. I'm Matt, the one co-host. This is Scott, who drove here from Ohio to be here to do this little thing.
and got lost, so there's that. Yeah, I mean... did he tell you that we might swear a little bit? So
yeah, sorry about that.
Mittens on, everybody, for the next hour and a half.
Yeah, earmuffs. There's earplugs for $1 over there. So we are going to be talking about Jason Takes Manhattan, and we decided to bring...
Yeah, we're definitely going to try and keep it like PG-13.
PG-13.
Is that okay?
So we've got a guest with us. He is the supervillain lead singer of the punk rock band Johnny Neutrino and the Order of the Crawling Hand. So, Johnny, can you make your evil way up to the stage to join us? Talking?
We give him a round of applause.
Hold on a second. He's got his bodyguard. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Watch out. Thank you for delivering him safely, sir.
Very imposing figure.
We talked about this. My name is Johnny Neutrino.
I apologize.
For anybody who has never listened to our podcast, Matt has a serious problem with actually pronouncing simple words like neutrino or amaretto or John. This is going to be a recurring problem all night tonight.
So, right off the bat, how many of you guys have actually seen Jason Takes Manhattan from 1989?
A little round of applause for anybody that's seen Jason Takes Manhattan.
So we just spent the last 2 days working at the Monster Mania convention over in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And we were handing out flyers, and the most baffling thing of this entire weekend was how many people told us that that's their favorite Friday the 13th movie. And it blew my mind.
It's awful. It's terrible.
It is one of the worst things I've ever seen. So,
I'm really upset with the fact that I've had to rewatch this film just for tonight. Like, it's very disappointing.
There's, for starters, it's called Jason Takes Manhattan, and he does not get to Manhattan until 3/4 of the movie.
Also, this movie is like an hour and 50 minutes, right?
It is the longest Friday the 13th
You
movie.
feel every second of that.
About Manhattan, though, because it opens on Manhattan
with
and
a
it's
really awesome song.
Some post-apocalyptic future. Like it is the city that the Warriors takes place in. It is not New York City.
No. That's the thing, is that in the 80s, like, New York City actually looked like Basket Case. Like, if you watch the movie Basket Case, it's just
garbage.
It is
Right, yeah,
more or less like Fury Road, but a city.
It was Basket Case just without like the porno theaters. Like that's the only difference.
How did a garbage strike generate barrels of toxic waste on the corner?
Well, as you know, as they explain later on in the movie, toxic waste pumps through the city of New York. At midnight, every single night is a toxic waste overflow. So this movie literally starts off with a voice that just goes, Jason!
It actually is that volume compared to the rest of the volume of the movie.
It's the Paramount logo with someone just yelling Jason as the stars go around the mountain. It's the most baffling decision.
I'd honestly be a lot happier if that was the entire movie. Just like, Jason, done.
Well, and then there's this weird spoken word intro about the city of New York City as the credits.
That reminded me of the Warriors, too.
Yeah. It sounds like Hard Harry and Pump Up the Volume giving like a speech. He's just like, New York City, a city filled with disease and distress. But there's one disease known as Jason Voorhees that is just making his way into town.
Yeah, Frank Miller wrote the...
Yeah, actually, for an episode of Mad Men, he's like, we're going to get high, watch Jason, and listen to Miles. That's this movie in a nutshell, pretty much.
This is the 8th movie, and they still need to tell us the origin of Jason, as if like someone was just like, I've never seen those other movies. I'll go check this one out, I guess.
They didn't need filler for this movie. It was an hour and 50 minutes long. We didn't need that rehash.
And yet somehow it all manages to be filler.
It's nothing but filler. So Jason is revived in this movie by an anchor catching a power line, which is how they killed the shark in Jaws 2, side note. So the shark's demise is Jason's rebirth. Did either one of you hear when Jason gets electrocuted to life, he literally goes, cha-cha, like underneath the water?
Well, wouldn't that have electrocuted everyone on the boat as well?
Yeah, and
when the anchor hits the high power line?
I feel like the biggest problem with that is that if everybody died, or I mean, if all the fish died in Camp Crystal Lake, they wouldn't be able to have any campers there. Like, they wouldn't be able to go fishing. Half of their entire, like, outdoor plans would be ruined.
So we've got this opening couple, right? So you've got your typical, like, dumb 80s teen girl and her boyfriend.
Played by 26-year-olds, mind you.
So the boyfriend is telling them all about, like, oh, yeah, there was this boy named Jason, and he drowned, and then his mom killed a bunch of people, and he tells her this horrible story, and then he, like, jumps out of a corner and stabs her with a fake knife, and she's just like, oh, you.
And then they get back into bed.
He definitely took that joke way too far.
It was much like the rest of this movie, it was a long build-up with very little payoff. Yes. Pretty much his whole game plan there. And then so it's suddenly, like, they get killed, and then it jumps to the next day. And this school is apparently doing a trip to Manhattan via a ship leaving Camp Crystal Lake, and somehow that's going to connect to Manhattan, which they never explained, and the director has gone on record saying, like, we just figured no one would notice.
Yeah, it's a lake.
So this girl gets driven there by her English teacher, and
that relationship is super weird. Like,
it's really weird.
I mean, I had an English teacher that liked me and gave me a pen when I graduated from high school.
Was it from Stephen King? Was it Stephen King's pen from high school?
No, actually it wasn't. But
when the fuck did Stephen King graduate high school? Like 1791?
It's
actually,
literally
this movie,
that pen.
It must have been like 3 years before this movie, because he must have seen the main character, Susie, right?
Yeah, Susie.
He must have seen her when she was a freshman. He was a senior. He's like, that girl's going places. I better give her my pen.
Well, so there's this moment where, like, the teacher shows up and she's talking to the biology teacher, who's like the guy who didn't want to do this trip. And he's
that's not explained at all.
Yeah, that's never explained. Why he's even there. There wasn't any other teacher that wanted to go to New York.
They couldn't find anybody that wanted to go to New York, so they found one that was, like, mediocre about it, one that really decided he didn't want anybody to have fun. And quote, always, like... But the best line is actually, like, the teacher says, and I quote, when the missing kids are, like, brought up by the biology teacher, she's like, they would rather be exploring each other.
Yeah.
Like, what teacher says that?
She says that, but what's more shocking is the biology teacher's just like, story checks out, all aboard, let's go. Like, there's no need to search for these two missing teens.
And aren't they dead on the boat?
They're dead. Well, no, they had their own separate boat.
Their own separate boat. I mean, like, that's super rich kids right there.
All right, so I have a note here. It says, all right, we're 15 minutes in. I just need to clarify some things. They're taking a ship from Camp Crystal Lake into New York. Renee and her dad are under a guardianship. Renee and her dog are under the guardianship of this biology teacher, who turns out to be her uncle. And the ship captain just decides to put his son in charge of everything.
That makes no sense. Like, and also the kid's like, apparently he's been trained his whole life, but his dad's like, you got to do this and you got to do this. Like, and then his dad gets killed, and so he's like, oh, I guess I'm on my own. Like,
I got a real good look at that kid, and I'm pretty sure he knows something about who killed Laura Palmer.
Oh, yeah. So then we get introduced to JJ, who I'm pretty sure is your favorite, like, teen in all of...
She might be. She absolutely... Yeah. But the sad thing is that...
She's in the movie for 3 minutes?
Yeah, seriously. So this girl is, like, the rock and roller. She's got, like, kind of a Ramones haircut. She's wearing a gigantic leather jacket with, like, big shoulder pads. But she's got a purple flying V, like Gibson flying V. And I also made a note. I appreciate the authenticity they found someone who actually was playing the parts. When she's, like, shredding the guitar, her fingers are, because I'm a guitar player, so I can see that she's actually moving, like, the actual song that she's playing to, but she's actually plugged her expensive Gibson into this like $20 Radio Shack cassette player that apparently has distortion and a backing track, and she's like got her weird nerdy friend who
you mean the Walmart brand Crispin Glover that's over there videotaping for her?
I thought he was Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Oh my God!
Wearing a Gordon Gartrell shirt.
I have a Lex Luthor joke too. Thank you. Evil mastermind over here. But she gets murdered literally 3 minutes in. I mean, like, she's the coolest, most hip, most down-to-earth, like, least worth getting killed person in the entire 13 Jason films.
I feel like you referring to her as cool and hip and down-to-earth is exactly what the 50-year-old executive producer asked for her to be. He was like...
I'll admit that.
Like, I need someone who's hip and cool and down-to-earth.
We have to finish this podcast up pretty early so I can get to bed and get my Metamucil, like...
So...
hold on, you're skipping over something really important, though.
Okay.
Her death? Or...
Frank Miller is standing by the porthole listening to her getting murdered, and he's like, I told you this voyage was doomed.
Yeah, that's the best. I forgot about that. There's the guy who's like, this voyage is doomed. And then he sees her get murdered, he's like, told you.
Who hired that guy?
The thing is they probably got fired right before they started the trip, and he's like, man, these kids are in for a rough ride.
So, like, this is the point, though, where you see the ship has, like, well over 100 students on it that all just vanish from this point on.
Like, they pull off the mooring. Like, they're in the lake. I mean, I don't know how big Camp Crystal Lake is. It's probably not that big.
I mean, we could go to it. It's not that far from here, actually.
in the mythology, not in reality. But, like, they're on their way, and it looks like they're going into the sea.
Yeah, and
somehow, and then all the kids disappear, and you're left with like 7 people that get killed. I mean, honestly,
I love for there to be like a deleted scene where the boat has like big ass wheels underneath it. It's just like hauling ass down the road to the closest ocean.
Yeah, we have to like ford this like this road, guys.
I feel like at this point we can probably just skip to the last 15 minutes of the movie. Because there's a bunch of murders and none of them matter.
None of them matter.
Not until you get to Manhattan.
The only notes of like noteworthy deaths that happen in the next couple minutes is that there's that girl who draws her organs on her body to seduce the biology teacher to get it to have Crispin Glover videotape her seducing him when the biology teacher clearly looks like he's being seduced. Yeah. And he doesn't want like anything to do with it. And she's like, well, that's blackmail because I kissed you.
Well, she's also like, did I label my organs right? And the only one she labeled was stomach.
And heart.
Oh.
But here's the thing.
No, you didn't label those.
I mean, I'm not saying it's anatomically correct, but I mean, it was on top of, like, she had to have her bra and panties on so that, you know, we had a PG. This movie is literally the most PG-13 Jason movie you'll ever watch.
Yeah, there's like no blood, there's no nudity, there's no reason to watch it.
There are two kills that I want to talk about. First, the blonde mean girl. Oh, yeah. So she draws. This is how dumb, just absolutely stupid the story writing or the story plan for this movie is. Like, what? Okay, if you have somebody who has organs drawn on them, it should be foreshadowing that Jason's going to remove those organs. He does.
Wait, so you wanted her to turn into like Operation, like a human version of the game?
How much better would this movie have been if they would have turned her into an operation? Like, I know that Jason is not like about precise murders, but. Come on.
It just keeps going.
They could have electrocuted her, and it would have been just as. That's okay. If this was Jason Lives, that's the joke they would have played.
Yeah. Because Jason Lives is a good movie.
It's also funny, but also subversive in that way.
So there's also the weird.
Wait. Before we go on past that murder, we missed the murder, which is this guy goes into the sauna and lays down, puts a towel over his face, and immediately gets a rock in his stomach, a hot rock in his stomach, and
it bursts into flames.
Yes, that's not how human bodies work. I mean, I don't know how much gas he had in his stomach, and if it like inflamed that, I don't know. I eat a lot of beans, but I don't think they would have done that to me. But the thing is that like. That could have been a sweet kill. It sucks.
Could have been.
It is so bland.
In any other
whole
Jason movie, it would have been.
I don't know. Honestly,
this boat also has this weird rock and roll disco area that
no. Like, why are the lights on if no one is on that boat?
No one is enjoying this disco. It is vacant.
Also, it's not like a disco song. It's like another rock and roll song that's playing, which makes no sense if like it's like a disco ball and it's like happy graduation, nobody on the boat.
Did you get the impression that maybe the cinematographer thought that a disco and like a hall of mirrors in a fun house were the exact same thing? Because she kept looking around like, oh, Jason's over there.
That was 5 minutes of the movie, by the way.
Jason's over there.
Yeah.
So
it was a room that is about the size of this stage.
So this was the point when I was like, all right, let me check on the old IMDb trivia page for anything of note. Leonard Maltin gave this movie 2 stars. It's the highest rated Friday the 13th movie Leonard Maltin has ever reviewed.
Wait, is this the only one he's reviewed? Because that would make a whole lot more sense.
No, he's reviewed all of them. And this was what he considered the crown jewel.
No, absolutely not. Can he go retroactively back and say that Jason Lives is way better? Because like I will fight Leonard Maltin. Like Leonard Maltin, if you're listening, I will fight you on this.
So it's also important to note at this point, the movie Jason Takes Manhattan.
And we're over an hour in.
We're
he's not
an
there.
hour in. We're still on a boat.
Yeah. It's actually Jason takes over a boat.
Yeah. The closest we've come to Manhattan was the weird opening shot that you talked about earlier.
And they think like the IMDb trivia thinks that is like super deep because they're like, oh, the intro shows all the places where Jason kills someone in Manhattan. That's not deep. That just means that they were on location that day, took him out of the picture, and like, here's this radioactive, toxic waste that they're like are gonna dunk somebody in.
So, yeah, the ship finally begins to sink. There's 35 minutes left of the movie. This
is when I start hitting fast forward.
Yeah, they're still no closer to Manhattan than when the movie started.
Then we have that 10-minute montage of them, like, rowing.
Yeah, they just row. Nothing happens. They're just rowing. And then suddenly Jason, who was sinking in the ship, just pops out of the harbor.
In Manhattan.
In Manhattan. As if, I'd like to believe that, like the Statue of Liberty in Ghostbusters 2, he just has been walking through the water this whole time.
He is extra slimy, though.
I was going to say, this is his gooeyest. They must have used an entire, like, one of those 55-gallon jugs of KY?
Yeah.
Actually, Kane Hodder was at Monster Mania this weekend, and I wanted to ask him how much KY they slathered on him, but I didn't want to pay the $50, so it didn't happen.
So they've been in New York for 3 minutes when a group of punk kids try to kidnap and rape somebody.
And they inject the main girl with heroin.
Yeah.
And she's not high the rest of the movie. Like, she would be tripping balls.
Like, I understand why the New York tourist group was like very anti this movie, if that's like the depiction of New York that they're kicking off with.
Yeah, like you got these guys who are going to take your money, take your girl, kill her after doing awful things to her. But I will say we watch a lot of violence towards women in the movies that we discuss on this podcast.
Yeah.
And this was quite possibly the least offensive.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because they inject her with heroin and then they're going to...
Because they gave her free drugs.
But the thing is that if they're fiending and they're taking people's money so that they can buy drugs, and they're going to use their last, like, syringe that they have prepped. Like, I don't know a whole lot about drugs, but why would you have a syringe prepped? You know?
Just in case someone comes into New York at that very moment.
She also, like... I can't get past the fact that she's like, no, she doesn't, like, fight back. She, like, slaps one guy, and he's like, oh, I like you now. I think I'm in love. Like I said, it is the least offensive of all the degradation that the women that we watch in these movies, like, lives through.
But then at this point, it actually gets kind of good. There's brief moments of goodness.
The thing is that it's good in comparison to the last hour.
Like, that boxing scene is one of the best moments in any Friday the 13th movie.
And the sad thing is that it was kind of taken down a notch by the boxing scene
in They Live?
No, I was actually going to say the boxing scene in Halloween H2O. No, Halloween Resurrection.
Resurrection, where Busta Rhymes boxes Michael Myers to his demise.
Yes. So I had seen Jason Takes Manhattan before Halloween Resurrection. Jason Takes Manhattan is a much better film than Halloween Resurrection. Take our word for it. But like, I can't like separate those two scenes, and so it really takes away the entertainment value of the first one in Jason Takes Manhattan.
But Halloween Resurrection would be a way better movie if Busta Rhymes punched Michael Myers' head off.
Honestly, I don't think... Here's what would have actually made that a way better kill in this movie, is if his spine would have come out.
Just
like Mortal Kombat style.
Like...
Yeah.
Or if a killer clown from outer space knocked his block off.
There you go. Yes, exactly. Actually, so Killer Clowns did it first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And best.
So I have a note here that just says, hey, remember when that English teacher gave Rennie the Stephen King pen? That was pretty pointless, wasn't it?
Oh, my God. I think
never brought up again. Never once.
It makes no sense because you think that there's trying to, like, she's going to stab him in the eye with the pen. She doesn't.
She doesn't do anything with the pen.
She stabs him in the eye, but the pen is never,
The pen's never seen again. And that scene, I feel like, was to establish that she's a writer, which is also a trait that is never brought up again.
And it's not like they edited it.
It's the most pointless.
They didn't shorten the film to, like, they didn't have to cut any scenes out showing her being a writer or having aspirations to go to New York City or anything. It's mind-boggling.
This is the only time you'll ever hear me say this, but that dog was pretty pointless, too.
No, that dog...
I love dogs, but that dog served no purpose.
No, the thing about that dog is that I have a note. My second note is, like, that dog better not die. Because, backstory for everybody that probably hasn't heard it, because it was a special for our Patreon donors, we did a commentary track. Like, we watched, the three of us, well, Matt, Adam, and I watched Bride of Reanimator a couple weeks ago and did a commentary track to the movie. We only spent half of the time talking about the actual movie, but the cutest freaking dog I've ever seen in any horror movie was in that movie. Doesn't live. I was like, I was so mad.
It comes back with a human arm for a leg, though.
I mean, they take no prisoners in that film, but at least in this one, the dog lives. Although, if the dog could have, like, been not useless, if the dog could have, like, fought Jason and maybe died an honorable death or lived after fighting Jason off, like, nobody in this movie matters.
The dog brings up a very important question, though, because the dog sees Jason as a little boy jump through the porthole, right?
Yeah.
And runs away. And then little boy Jason grabs her and pulls her down, and then Jason, like, disappears and reappears in the disco. Does Jason have extra magic powers in this?
He does. Actually, he has extra magic powers. He has teleportation starting in Jason Lives, right?
I believe so.
I mean, it's pretty much implied that he has teleportation powers.
So I'm glad you brought up little baby boy Jason, though, because it's awful. And there's this moment where she's driving the car, and, like, baby boy Jason's standing in the middle of the street, and, like, it suddenly goes to slow motion, and then it's like the chunk thing from, like, L.A. Law or whatever those shows are, CSI, where it just does, like, these quick, like, slow motion zooms into baby Jason's face, and then she just smashes the police car into a wall and kills people.
I'm also pretty sure there were at least 15 young actors playing young baby Jason, and one of them was like a 50-year-old Asian man.
Oh, dude, there's no... So this is, like, everyone always talks about this scene. It's like their favorite scene in the movie is Jason actually walking around, like, Times Square.
It is the high point.
It's awesome.
So my favorite part is that there's a group of guys who are the most, like, stereotypical 80s punk guys listening to, like, what I can only describe as the rap song at the end of Monster Squad, where it's like Dracula swimming in a swimming pool, like, rapping it, rap. And it's like,
weren't they the gang from Short Circuit 2?
Yes. We have gone far too many years doing this podcast without talking about Short Circuit at all. Good.
But then Jason lifts the hockey mask. It's a great joke. It's a lovely joke. Don't you dare laugh that mask. I know the rules of luchadors. So I like this note. We already talked about it, but it just says, the sewers flood with toxic waste every night at midnight. Citation needed. So, this is just a thing that they just kind of throw out there. It's like, oh, yeah, no, everybody knows that. And then she throws the toxic waste on Jason's face, and his face mutates into a Muppet, which is, like, the worst Jason has ever looked.
It was a child's drawing of a rotting pumpkin.
Yes.
If you asked a child who had never watched the movie Pumpkinhead to draw what they think Pumpkinhead looks like, they would draw that version of Jason.
And I can speak for Adam because he's not here, but Adam hates Pumpkinhead. We did an episode on Pumpkinhead, and he was so livid. I think I picked it, didn't I?
So speaking of Adam, he did take some time to send us a quick review since he couldn't be here. And he says, Jason Takes Manhattan. When you picture a Friday the 13th movie, you don't really think hilarious comedy. So why is every aspect of this movie built on some weird slapstick bullshit? Jason's tumbling and doing pratfalls and taking off his mask to spook kids and hamming it up when he gets violently electrocuted. And the director's so excited by his Times Square shots that the camera actually shakes sometimes with the motion of him jerking it in excitement. Anyway, as Jason movie goes, I give this 3 out of 10. But as the Three Stooges movie, I give it a 1 out of 10.
That's good. Adam just redeemed himself for not being able to be here.
So Jason he's hit by the sewer, the toxic waste and is mutated into a child.
Hold on, because there's an awesome scene where the girl with the beaded vest throws...
That was one of my favorite books in that series.
Throws...
God, that's amazing.
She throws toxic waste in Jason's face.
With her bare hand.
Where did she get it?
From
out
a
of the
viral that
bucket.
was right there. There's a bucket just chilling in the...
There's a bucket of toxic waste sitting there. So she throws toxic waste in his face, and then he throws up on her.
Well, okay, so Kane Hodder actually drank a gallon of water and then had the mask on. I was like, "Bah."
So with all this toxic waste in New York City, how much better would this movie be if Toxic Avenger just comes
I have that note. I said there is. It makes me never realize how bad I wanted a Toxie versus Jason movie.
I had a very similar note. I said New York City looks like if Blade Runner was made by Trauma.
That's true. That's so true. And you know what? We are also missing one other great 80s reference here. I was wondering, the guy that gets dumped headfirst into that toxic waste, what Ninja Turtle characters did he get turned into?
4 baby turtles.
The babies.
That must have been Rocksteady there.
So, like, one of my favorite, like, facts that I found was that the original ending to this movie was, like, the toxic waste was supposed to hit him, and he was just supposed to, like, completely just be gone. Like, you would see, like, his ghost spirit, which would actually beautifully set up Jason Goes to Hell, but,
Yeah.
but they originally it was, like, supposed to be the spirit disappearing, and they were like, well, that's too final. We have to leave it open-ended. So he's going to be a child in the sewers for the rest of his life.
In wet boxer shorts. It was really creepy. I was like, why is that little chubby boy wearing wet boxer shorts in the sewer?
I'm really worried that why Jason is eventually chubby, because, like, Jason has to be jacked.
Well, I assume that he's a baby instead of a young man. He's a baby, just a gigantic.
Yeah, in his baby form, he's massive.
Right.
You know that they had
bad
to
for
do
Mrs. Voorhees.
They had to do a casting call for that kid, right? Like,
And they took
like,
everyone.
We're looking for short, fat, bald children to sit in the sewer in their underwear for our movie.
And the kid's like, I'll do it for free. I'll do it for nothing.
I modeled husky tough knees in the Sears Wish book last year.
Here, 1 year supply.
Oh my God! So, like, would any of you?
Wait. So we have to talk about the fact that the end of this movie is all of our friends are dead, but we're in New York City. We're in Times Square. Let's see the sights.
At a slice. Where's the diner that Rizzo the Rat works?
Dude, if this movie ended with, like, Frank Sinatra's "That's Life," it would not be out of place with that final shot. Like,
Can we remake this movie with John Hamm, obviously, as Jason. And then we have Real Big Fish do their New York at the end of it?
acapella version?
Yes!
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. So, would any of you guys ever tell anybody that they should watch Jason?
Absolutely not. And I actually spent all day at Monster Mania today telling people they're wrong in liking this film. I didn't care that we could have them come see us tonight. We could have them buy our T-shirts. We could have them listen to our podcast. It's way more important to let them know that their opinions on Jason Takes Manhattan are wrong.
They are beyond wrong.
Oh, wait. Wrong.
As the world's greatest supervillain, I enjoy making people suffer, so...
But not
watching
this much.
Friday the 13th Part 8 will be mandatory in my new world order.
You have your own little NWO coming around?
I do.
They're going to spray paint us and make us watch Jason Takes Manhattan?
No, they just stab.
All right, guys. Well, that is our first episode talking about Jason Takes Manhattan. Thank you so much, Johnny Neutrino, for coming here and talking about this awful movie.
Yeah. Thanks for dealing with this garbage.
We're going to take a really quick break, and then we will be back to discuss the infamously bad Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, which I'm going to defend a little bit because I like that movie. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I do too, so we're going to have a lot to talk about.
The name is Neutrino!
No!
He got it right the second time.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.